My insane mother-in-law lied to my whole family that I was forcing my daughter to be trans, then plotted her kidnapping. So I exposed her psychotic obsession for the world to see. My mother-in-law thinks the world revolves around her. At our wedding, she wore a long ivory dress, which basically looked white, with a veil to match. It wasn't even surprising because I had already accepted that my husband's family was dysfunctional as heck. I still remember the first time I visited his two brothers, Terrence and Marcus, at their shared apartment. It was 90 degrees outside, but for some reason they had the AC cranked up so high it was literally 40 degrees. Hey, do you mind if I turn down the air conditioning? Oh wow! So we let you into our home and now you think you can make demands? Terrence yelled at the top of his lungs. Meanwhile, Marcus clenched his fists so hard they went white, but compared to his mother, Terrence and Marcus were practically gems. My husband introduced me at Marcus's birthday. Terrence couldn't make it. Everything was going fine until she, completely unprompted, started sharing all of Terrence's dirty little secrets, and that he needs to lose weight. But then when she was alone with Terrence, she'd tell him the same thing about Marcus. I guess it was her way of making sure she stayed the center of attention or something. So this, combined with the white dress at my wedding fiasco, taught me that my mother-in-law was a poop stirrer. But I still wanted our children to have a relationship with their grandmother. So when it was time for my gender reveal party, I invited her. Well, kinda. The party started at 7:30 p.m., but I told her that it started at 9 LOL. But somehow, she still managed to F everything up. I cut the cake as soon as she walked in the door. It was blue frosting. I immediately felt my face light up, and my husband took my hand and twirled me around. I expected to see everyone just as happy or excited as me. Instead, they all had forced smiles on their faces, like the ones the airplane hostesses give you. I thought I was imagining it, but then when I opened the gifts, all of them were extremely male-oriented. Baby boy sneakers, dinosaur toys, toy trucks. Call it maternal instinct. But I knew my mother-in-law was behind this. So while everyone was distracted with the Wingstop bundle we ordered, me and my husband pulled her aside. "I hope you're here to thank me," she immediately blurted out. "What are you talking about?" my husband asked with a sigh. "I was the one who found out it was a boy, and now you have all the right gifts. You've had your entire life to be the center of attention. Can't you just give us one night?" My husband's words stopped me in my tracks. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law's face turned completely red, and she glared at me like the whole thing was my fault. My husband didn't say anything else, just grabbed her shoes and coat, handed them to her, and opened the front door for her to leave. There were no other complications with the pregnancy, so instead of getting another ultrasound, we decided to just save the money to build Owen's room. And by we, I mean my husband, because my feet had swelled so much that walking was very uncomfortable. He painted the room blue, bought shelves, a cot, Spider-Man lights from IKEA, and put them all together by himself without me asking or lifting a finger. To all the girls reading this, please take this as your sign to never settle. Fast forward to a few weeks later when the baby was finally born, and a wave of anger boiled my blood, because as the pregnancy hormones pumped through my veins and exhaustion flooded my head, I was forced to deal with the fact that my mother-in-law had lied to us. Our baby Owen was actually a baby Bella. I had given birth to a baby girl. My mother-in-law was in the waiting room waiting to come into the birthing room, but my husband never called her in. I heard him whisper shout, "What the F is wrong with you? I spent dozens of hours and not to mention a shot ton of money preparing a boy's room." She interrupted him to cackle. It was so ugly and loud I actually thought the glass from the window was about to crack. "Why are you so serious, Wern?" she yelled. Even the nurses were giving her dirty looks. My husband called over a security guard and asked him to escort her out. And I guess he caught the bad vibes because he actually listened. When my husband came back, he promised we would go NC with her, and baby Bella would never have the displeasure of meeting her. The first few days were hard, but somehow my mother-in-law made them even harder. Because one morning I woke up to a knock on the door. It wasn't my mother-in-law. It was CPS. She had an AirPod in one ear blasting Cardi B while chewing gum with her mouth wide open. She pushed past me and made a beeline straight to Bella's room. "Yep, just as I thought," she said while looking around. "Ma'am, we got an anonymous complaint of you forcing your baby daughter to be transgender. Do you have a next line of contact of where your baby girl could go?" I rubbed my eyes in disbelief. Tears streamed down my face as the absurdity of the situation hit me. My shirt was stained with milk and spit up, and I hadn't showered in 2 days. The last thing I needed was this woman questioning my ability to care for my child. Luckily, after a lot of convincing and showing this woman that there was nothing wrong with how I was parenting my kid, CPS confirmed there was no issue and left our home very quickly. My husband and I decided we couldn't risk staying near his mother anymore. Within weeks, we'd found a new home far enough away that she hopefully wouldn't track us down. Moving was exhausting with a newborn, but we knew it was necessary for Bella's safety and our sanity. Once the last box was unpacked, we vowed to rebuild our life with stronger boundaries, hoping distance could protect our family. The first few months in our new place were blissful. Bella was thriving, my husband had found a better job with the move, and I was starting to feel like myself again. The new house had large windows that let in streams of sunlight, warming the hardwood floors where Bella would lay on her playmat, kicking her little legs excitedly. We'd chosen a neighborhood with good schools, friendly neighbors, and most importantly, no connections to my mother-in-law. But peace never lasts when you have someone like her in your life, even at a distance. It started with a Facebook message from Marcus. "Hey, just checking in. Haven't heard from you guys in a while." Innocent enough, but something felt off. Marcus had never been the checking in type. His message sat in my inbox for hours before I finally replied with a brief update and some photos of Bella. A week later, Terrence called my husband, furious. They talked for almost an hour, mostly about sports and work. Nothing about mother-in-law, nothing about our move, just normal brother stuff. too normal. The forced casualness in my husband's voice as he discussed the latest football game made my skin crawl. Do you think she put them up to it? I asked after he hung up. My husband shrugged, his shoulders tense as he set his phone down on the kitchen counter. Maybe, but they're still my brothers. I didn't push it. Family was complicated, and I understood his reluctance to cut off everyone, but I couldn't shake the feeling we were being watched, assessed, located. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up every time I checked the mail or took Bella for a walk in her stroller. My suspicions were confirmed when a package arrived addressed to baby Owen. No return address. Inside was a blue blanket with a note. For my grandson. Grandma loves you. I immediately threw it in the trash, my hands shaking. The soft fabric felt like a threat as I stuffed it deep into the garbage can, burying it under coffee grounds and vegetable peelings. How did she know where we lived? We're not leaving, I told my husband that night. She's trying to find us. He nodded grimly, his jaw set in determination as he checked that all the windows were locked. I'll talk to Marcus and Terrence, make it clear they can't share our address with her. But it was too late. The next day, I was pushing Bella's stroller through the grocery store when I felt someone watching me. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I navigated through the aisles, the wheels of the stroller squeaking slightly on the linoleum floor. I turned down the cereal aisle and there she was, mother-in-law, standing at the other end, staring directly at us. My blood ran cold. She wore a smug smile, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against a box of Cheerios as she watched me. I turned the stroller around so fast I knocked over a display of granola bars. The boxes clattered to the floor, drawing stares from other shoppers as I frantically maneuvered away. I abandoned my half-filled cart and practically ran to the exit, fumbling with my keys as I strapped Bella into her car seat. My heart pounded in my chest and sweat beaded on my forehead, despite the cool air conditioning of the store. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I saw mother-in-law walking calmly to her car, smiling. She wasn't even trying to follow us. She didn't need to. She'd made her point. She knew where we lived. The realization sat like a stone in my stomach as I drove home, constantly checking my rearview mirror. I called my husband in tears. She's here. She found us. That night, we installed security cameras and changed our locks. The metallic scraping sound of the locksmith's tools provided little comfort as I rocked Bella, trying to keep her calm despite my own anxiety. My husband called both his brothers, but neither admitted to giving out our address. Either they were lying, or mother-in-law had other sources. The next morning, I found a business card slipped under our door. A family lawyer named Corey Daniels. On the back was a handwritten note. I specialize in restraining orders and grandparents' rights cases. First consultation free. The card was cream-colored and expensive-looking, with embossed lettering that caught the morning light. I hadn't even considered that mother-in-law might try to use the legal system against us. The thought made me sick. My stomach churned as I handed the card to my husband, who examined it with a frown deepening the lines on his forehead. We met with Corey the following day. He was younger than I expected, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. His office smelled of leather and coffee, with diplomas hanging neatly on the wall behind his organized desk. Based on what you've told me, she doesn't have a case for grandparents' rights, he assured us. But that doesn't mean she won't try. And given her history of manipulation and false reports, we should be prepared. His fingers tapped efficiently on his keyboard as he took notes of our situation. We filed for a restraining order that afternoon. The process was straightforward but emotionally draining. I had to relive every moment of mother-in-law's interference, from the white dress at our wedding to the CPS nightmare. My voice cracked several times as I described the events, and my husband squeezed my hand supportively. The hearing is set for next month, Corey explained. Until then, document everything. Every call, every package, every sighting. He handed us a thick folder of paperwork, the weight of it somehow representing the burden we now carried. For 2 weeks, things were quiet, too quiet. I jumped at every knock on the door, scrutinized every car that drove past our house twice. My husband installed a doorbell camera and motion sensor lights. We were living in a fortress of our own making. The constant vigilance was exhausting, leaving dark circles under my eyes and tension in my shoulders. Then the letters started coming. Not to our house, that would violate the temporary restraining order, but to my workplace, my husband's office, even our pediatrician. Each one claimed we were unfit parents, that we were confusing our daughter about her gender, that we needed intervention. The envelopes were all the same, plain white with typed addresses, no return information. My boss, Tatum, called me into their office after receiving one. The smell of their jasmine tea filled the small space as I sat nervously in the chair across from their desk. I know this is bull, they said, handing me the sealed envelope, but I thought you should know it's happening. Their kind eyes showed concern as they pushed the letter toward me. I opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a lengthy letter detailing my postpartum psychosis and how I was projecting gender dysphoria onto my infant daughter. The paper crinkled in my hands as I read the vicious accusations. It was signed, "A concerned grandmother. She's trying to get me fired," I whispered. Tatum shook their head, their silver earrings catching the light as they moved. "Not happening on my watch, but you might want to give your other references a heads up." I called everyone I could think of. My former employers, our landlord, Bella's daycare. Most had already received similar letters. Some had thrown them away without reading. Others were concerned enough to call me first. The daycare director, Brenda, was particularly upset. "We've had someone calling daily asking about Bella's care," she admitted. "At first, we thought it was you checking in, but the voice was older." My stomach dropped, a cold feeling spreading through my chest. "What did you tell her?" I asked, gripping my phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. "Nothing specific," Brenda assured me, but she was very convincing. Said she was the emergency contact while you were having surgery. I thanked her for her honesty and immediately updated all of Bella's emergency contacts, adding passwords and explicit instructions not to release information to anyone claiming to be grandma. The restraining order hearing couldn't come fast enough. In the meantime, mother-in-law escalated. She created a Facebook group called Save Owen, with with a profile picture of a blue balloon. The description read, "Supporting parents of gender-confused children. Special prayer request for my grandson Owen, whose parents are forcing him to live as a girl named Bella." The group had over 200 members within days. The blue light of my computer screen illuminated my face as I scrolled through the posts, each one more outrageous than the last. My sister found it first and called me in tears. "It's horrible," she said. "She's posting baby pictures. I don't know how she got them," and asking people to pray for divine intervention. Her voice cracked as she described the comments section, filled with people offering to help in various ways. I reported the group immediately, but Facebook's response was frustratingly slow. "We've reviewed the reported content and found it doesn't violate our community standards." The automated message stared back at me from my screen, adding to my growing sense of helplessness. The day before our hearing, mother-in-law made her boldest move yet. She showed up at Bella's daycare during pickup time, introducing herself to other parents as Bella's grandmother. I arrived to find her holding court in the lobby, showing phone pictures to a cluster of mothers. The cheerful primary colors of the daycare walls created a surreal backdrop for her performance. "This is him at the hospital," she was saying. "They've been forcing this girl act on him since birth." She swiped through photos on her phone, her red nail polish flashing as she gestured dramatically. The rage that filled me was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. I marched straight up to her, Bella's car seat in one hand, my phone recording in the other. My footsteps echoed on the linoleum floor, drawing attention from everyone in the lobby. "What do you think you're doing?" I demanded. She turned, feigning surprise. Her perfectly applied makeup couldn't hide the malicious gleam in her eyes. "Oh, there's my grandson's mother. We were just talking about you." The other mothers looked between us, confused. One of them, a woman named Arya with twin boys, stepped slightly away from mother-in-law. Her expression shifted from interest to concern as she observed the tension between us. "You need to leave," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Now." Mother-in-law smiled sweetly, adjusting her designer scarf with practiced nonchalance. "I'm just getting to know the other grandparents. Is that a crime?" The fluorescent lights highlighted the artificial sweetness of her smile. "You're violating a temporary restraining order," I replied, "and you're lying to these people." She laughed that same ugly laugh I remembered from the hospital. The sound bounced off the colorful walls of the daycare entrance. "Am I? Or are you the one lying? To yourself? To everyone? To this poor baby boy?" She reached toward Bella's car seat, but I pulled it away quickly, the plastic handle digging into my palm. I turned to the other parents. "This woman has been harassing us since our daughter was born. She called CPS with false accusations. She's stalking us. Please don't believe anything she tells you." My voice trembled slightly, but I held my ground, meeting the eyes of each parent in turn. Most looked uncomfortable, but Arya stepped forward. "I think you should go," she told mother-in-law. "This isn't the place for family disputes." Her twins watched wide-eyed from their stroller, sensing the tension in the room. Mother-in-law's face hardened. "You're all being manipulated," she hissed. Then she turned to me. "This isn't over. That boy deserves better." Her perfectly manicured finger pointed at me accusingly before she turned on her heel. As she stormed out, I collapsed into a nearby chair, shaking. Brenda rushed over with a glass of water. The cool liquid soothed my dry throat as I tried to calm my racing heart. "I'm so sorry," she said. She said she was on the approved pickup list. When I went to check, she disappeared into the lobby. Arya sat beside me, the vinyl chair squeaking under her weight. "My mother-in-law is a piece of work too," she said gently. "Not this level, but I get it. We've got your back." Her warm hand on my shoulder provided more comfort than she could know. The support meant everything, but I still felt violated. Mother-in-law had infiltrated one of the few places I felt Bella was safe. The colorful handprints on the walls and cheerful music playing softly in the background now seemed like an inadequate shield against her determination. The hearing itself was anticlimactic. Mother-in-law showed up with her own lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit who tried to paint her as a concerned grandmother being alienated from her grandchild. The courtroom smelled of furniture polish and anxiety as we took our seats, the hard wooden benches uncomfortable under my tense muscles. "My client simply wants access to her grandson," he argued. "The parents are clearly struggling with acceptance of their child's biological sex." His voice echoed slightly in the high-ceilinged courtroom. Our lawyer, Corey, presented the evidence methodically. The CPS report, the Facebook group, the daycare incident, the letters to our employers. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes, listened carefully. Her reading glasses perched on the end of her nose as she reviewed the documents. "Mrs. Jenkins," she finally said, addressing my mother-in-law directly, "do you understand that your grandchild is legally and medically female?" Mother-in-law sniffed, her shoulders stiffening under her tailored blazer. "Doctors make mistakes." She adjusted her pearl necklace, lifting her chin defiantly. "And do you understand that regardless of your personal beliefs, it is not your place to interfere with the parents' decisions?" The judge's voice was firm but patient, like she was explaining something to a stubborn child. "Someone has to protect that boy," mother-in-law insisted. Her voice carried across the quiet courtroom, making several people shift uncomfortably in their seats. The judge's expression hardened. "I'm granting the restraining order for a period of 3 years. You are to remain at least 500 feet from this family at all times. No contact, direct or indirect. No social media posts about them. No letters. No packages. Violation will result in criminal charges." The gavel came down with a sharp crack that seemed to punctuate the finality of her decision. Mother-in-law gasped dramatically. "You can't do this. I have rights." Her voice rose to a shrill pitch that made me wince. "Not to harass and stalk," the judge replied firmly. "This hearing is adjourned." Another crack of the gavel, and it was over. Outside the courtroom, my husband hugged me tightly. "It's over," he whispered. The scent of his cologne mixed with the subtle smell of courthouse dust as I leaned into his embrace. But I knew better. People like mother-in-law don't give up that easily. For a few weeks, things were quiet again. We stayed vigilant but tried to resume normal life. Bella started sitting up on her own. I returned to work part-time. My husband repainted the nursery in lavender with silver stars on the ceiling. The fresh paint smell lingered for days, a symbol of our new beginning. Then came the letter from Child and Family Services. Not CPS this time, but a different department. They were reviewing our case due to new information received. My heart sank as I read further. The official letterhead and formal language made the absurd accusations seem somehow more threatening. Someone had reported that we were medically transitioning our infant daughter by giving her hormones and puberty blockers. It was so absurd it would have been laughable if it weren't so terrifying. Bella was 6 months old. The idea that we were giving her any kind of gender affirming medical treatment was not just false but physically impossible. I looked at my daughter, happily gumming a teething ring in her bouncer, completely oblivious to the chaos swirling around her. Our lawyer was equally baffled. "This is a new low," Corey said.